So, here to discuss these developments from both President Biden and Donald Trump, Basil Smikle is the former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Tara Setmayer is a senior advisor for the Lincoln Project. Welcome to you both. So, Tara, you know I'm going to start with you first. You've got this J6 probe and other investigations into Trump, trying to get accountability and try to figure out what's, going on with him. Meanwhile, he's trying to portray himself to his supporters as a martyr. How is that playing out? Does that work? What's the impact?
Well, Donald Trump has been a professional victim his entire career, even before he became a politician. I mean, he has complained about, not being treated fairly. I mean, this has been a consistent characteristic for him forever. So the idea that he's some kind of martyr isn't new. It's only going to resonate with his base, which seems to be shrinking at this point. The January 6th committee has been devastating. These hearings have been absolutely devastating. Michael, as you know, some of our Republican friends have been murmuring about figuring out ways to off-ramp from Donald Trump now. They're looking at DeSantis and Glenn Youngkin and some of these other sweater vest brigade that seem to think that they're going to be more practical alternatives to Donald Trump if he runs again, which I think he will. But we all know that the Republican agenda has gone so extreme in order to placate this Trump base that they are no longer a viable party with real ideas. So Donald Trump going out there, the more that he complains about being a victim, the more I think it's good for Democrats to point to the extreme nonsense coming out of the Republican Party as not a serious party. I think it helps them if they can message it correctly. I don't think that they've completely been on board with a unified message there to capitalize on this.
So on that point just made, Basil, we heard Trump once again painting a dystopian portrait of rampant violent crime he suggests goes unchecked due to politically motivated investigations by Democrats. What's your response to that?
Well, it is from an old playbook, as you sort of indicated. It's very on brand for him. Anytime that Democrats raise questions about gun control, their immediate response is, well, look at Chicago and look at New York. And to be clear, the leaders in those cities are doing absolutely everything they can do to address this issue. The problem is that other states aren't as vigilant as some others are in trying to curb this violence. But that, I think, is the sort of lesson to be taken away here, which is that what's happened in the last few decades, and certainly within the last few years, Donald Trump was a means to an end for many Republicans in being able to change the courts. And so much now is so difficult now to get national legislation done, and it has been for a while. But there's so much being pushed to the states, whether you talk about gun control, abortion rights, voting rights, that the state legislatures that have become more Republican over the last 10 to 20 years are in the position to sort of create that policy platform that is difficult for Democrats to be able to have have national policy. And so it's an old trope. It's racialized and urbanized. But Democrats have to find a way to get that kind of this legislation, like the assault weapons ban, done nationally. The only way to do that is to change Congress and make sure that Democrats maintain both houses.
So Tara, to Basil's point, you can see the impact on the Democratic side, how they're trying to navigate these rather sticky spaces on policy and politics, right? But on the Republican side, is there any point where these investigations begin to take a toll on the Republican Party such that they then begin to look more lovingly and lustfully for Governor DeSantis in 2024? They want to go past Trump. And if so, how does that even look? Does Trump allow that to happen?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, let them fight it out. Because while they're fighting each other, right, the internecine warfare for the Republicans, while they're fighting it out, then Democrats can get it together and can be the pro-democracy party that's sane. We can argue about the differences in policies later, but our democracy is at stake here, and the stakes have to be laid out. I don't know that 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 message has been fully put out there, what's at stake. I think that every single Republican needs to be asked very simple questions. The questions that Donald Trump refuses to acknowledge. Is Joe Biden the lawfully elected president of the United States? Do you believe that? Yes or no? Do you believe that women should have the rights to make decisions privately with their own doctor and have agency over their own bodies, and that they are equal citizens to men in this country? Yes or no? Do you believe that our elections are free and fair? Yes or no? Like, put the Republicans on the hot seat, because that's what they're running on, all these insane culture war made up issues in their minds that are resonating with people because there hasn't been a good pushback to it. These are people, you look at Herschel Walker and Doug Mastriano and some of these Republican candidates that are out here running for office, and they're insane. They're dangerous people. And the Democrats have yet to fully capitalize on making the case that you don't want these people in power. If the Republicans take back Congress, none of what you want on your policy list will ever come to fruition. And in fact, they will take rights away from you. That's what's at stake here. And I'm waiting for that to happen.
So on that point, and you lay it out expertly, as you always do, Tara. So Basil, one enduring question since Biden was sworn in has been a lot to where Tara made her point, and whether or not he's meeting the moment we're in. This moment is one of seismic political and cultural shifts and consequences. In fact, a recent New York Times Siena poll found Democrats might think the answer is no. While, the president still narrowly beats Trump in a head-to-head matchup, 64% of Democratic primary voters want someone other than Biden as the nominee in 2024. I understand that. What does that mean? And what is it about Democrats that they can't just run with the guy who got him in the room? Give the brother a break. Let him work it out. I mean, come on. I mean, you look across the aisle and you see what's standing there, and you go, you're going to give power back to that? What are you guys doing?
Well, that's actually a really important point, and to comments that Tara made earlier. This is the existential question: do Democrats appeal to the head or to the heart of voters? And that emotional content, that fear factor, is very important. But to be honest, 6 years ago, Hillary Clinton told us chapter and verse, what was going to happen if Donald Trump became president, and he became president. In fact, in 2020, he got more votes. So the issue for us is it the message or is it the messenger? And unfortunately, sometimes we pay a little more attention to the messenger than the actual message. And that's what's hurt us over time. And the reality is, and I made this point earlier, that not a lot of Republicans may love Donald Trump, but he's a means to an end for some of them. And unfortunately, for Democrats, we have to start viewing, our leaders, whether it's Joe Biden or anybody else, and say, hey, who's going to be there to actually get the job done? I don't necessarily need to be inspired by this person, but I do need them to go do a job. And that's what, in many ways, that's what I think Democrats have to focus on. Can't put all of this on his shoulders. The voters are largely responsible for this too. So we have to take responsibility up and down that ballot.
All right.
And he's doing the job. Make sure that they continue to give him credit for what he's actually accomplished. Biden's actually accomplished a lot despite having a 50-50 Congress. That's not easy to do there when you have that. You can't just wave a magic wand and have a wish list of things and have to hope they happen. So start giving Biden some credit for the good.
Well, we're going to leave it there. You two can work that out on the back end. Basil Smikle and Tara Sedmayer, thank you both very much.